Hey, Mama, who's watching either this live or the reel that's posted. Dads too. Welcome, welcome. My name is Luminara Serdar, and I'm going to talk about help for picky eating today. And I have a ton of resources. I'm going to talk about a free download you can get to help with picky eating. And I'll have that posted in the captions in the reel and how you can get that. And what I really want to do is say why our kids might be picky eaters. And I think a third or something like that kids who have picky eating have autism, so it's pretty big in the autism community. And so talk about why that might be happening, because when we understand what's going on in our kids' bodies, the why, then we can actually take steps to do something about it. It's just the same way that I help shifting autism behaviors is if you know the root cause and what might be creating the behaviors deep inside the body, then you can do something to shift them. So that's what we'll talk about today with picky eating. So first of all, why might someone be a picky eater? If you are listening to this as a parent who has a picky eater, you're like probably, banging your head like, how can I get my child to eat healthy food? All they want is potato chips or chicken nuggets and french fries. I hear that all the time. Or maybe they just love cookies or biscuits, whatever you call them, or sugary or high carb snacks. And we need carbohydrates, but we also need really good protein and really good fat. We need a balanced diet, and you're probably trying to get these things into your child, fruits and vegetables. Vegetables are the, hardest one. And so we'll talk about how to do that and how to gradually get your child's taste buds to change, because our child can have a sensory issue, right? And things don't taste the same way to the child as they do to adults. And I have a true confession to make here is I was a picky eater as a child. And yes, back in the 70s and 80s, we had boxed food, a hamburger helper. My mom would cook out of, processed foods, but not as processed as they are today, actually. So with hamburger helper, we had real hamburger and then all the stuff that came in the box. And I didn't like mushrooms. I didn't like, Chinese food. I didn't like certain spices. So honestly, my mom learned to cook a little bit special for me, so I would actually eat. But it was a matter of not putting mushrooms in all the spaghetti sauce, and then I would eat everything. So that for me was a texture thing. So think it could be texture. I know a lot of our kiddos on the spectrum really love crunchy foods, and I feel like that could also be something to do with hearing, because when you crunch your food, there's something that happens in the ears. So I wonder if that is helping to develop something in the auditory system. That's just my own wondering, because I've heard that so much from parents. So think about that. What is your child's hearing like? Why do they love crunchy food? I think the hard things that are crunchy actually can be hard on the mucous membranes of the mouth. So I'm not sure it's like that they want that flavor or they want that crunch. I think they might want to hear something. Anyway, that's a little bit off the topic. So one reason kids can have picky eating is, besides sensory, right? The brain is not interpreting things well, is lack of zinc. Zinc, and you may have heard during a recent pandemic we had that when people got sick and they got the flu, they lose their sense of taste, and nothing tasted great, and they didn't even care about eating because it tasted like blah. So if our kiddos don't have enough zinc and everything tastes like blah, then why eat? Just eat the things that the microbes in our gut are deciding that we want. So that's one thing. A low level of zinc can throw the taste buds off, so nothing tastes really good. And so who wants to eat, right? There's no joy in eating. So we want to bring back the joy in eating too. The other thing is maybe kids have, it actually hurts to eat because there's something going on in the gut. And every single client I have worked with autism has gut issues. They have, research shows that kids with autism have much less variety, lower variety of microbes in the gut. They tend to have the quote unquote bad guys in the gut, right? The bad microbes, the bad bacteria, lots of parasites. And not only do those say, hey, I want you to eat simple carbs, I want you to eat sugar, so that feeds me, but they also create toxins, inflammation, and they create problems in the gut. And so gut dysbiosis is huge in many people, not just kids with autism, but that can also affect what we want to eat, right? The gut microbes could be saying, give me that easy carb stuff to digest. I don't want protein. I don't want fat. I don't want all these good things. So, and with the milieu in there, the types of microbes, it's quite possible that the digestion isn't working well. So if you eat something that's harder to break down, like a fat or a protein, then the machinery, the digestive enzymes may not be working well. And so it hurts. It actually hurts the gut to eat. It could hurt the stomach. It could hurt the intestines. It could hurt the colon. So why eat? Or let's eat the simple things that the microbes want, and that'll be easy to digest. Okay, so we talked about low zinc, maybe other minerals. We talked about gut dysbiosis, and it hurts. We talked about sensory issues, textures or taste, and we talked about gut microbes that are dictating what a child should eat. And those simple carbohydrates that our kids eat, the pasta, the bread, they break down into glucose easily that feed the microbes. Right, there could be a food allergy. So when we have an allergy to something, our body wants more and more of it. There's an addictive quality to it. So this could be with bread or gluten, and this can be with dairy. These molecules, as we digest, break down into smaller particles, but they don't really digest fully. And gluten and casein, two of the molecules in these items, can leak through the gut. If we have gut dysbiosis and we have inflammation, we have problems in the gut, we likely have leaky gut, and that can leak through the gut and circulate to the brain. These are morphine-like substances. These casomorphines, gliadomorphine, these are two things that come from gluten and dairy, wheat and dairy, and they feed the brain and go, make us feel really good. What does morphine do? It cuts down your level of pain. It makes you feel good. So we can get addicted to morphine, and we can get addicted to these morphine-like substances that come from food, leak through the gut, and get into the brain. So it's really hard. Maybe you've had the experience of trying to get your child off gluten or trying to get your child off dairy, or at least, bring down the level of what they're eating, and they want it every single day. And this is an addictive thing, and this could be an allergy as well. So allergies and sensitivities. If something hurts my body because I have an immune response, or I have a sensitivity and I get a rash all over my body, I don't want to eat that. Or maybe I want to eat more of it. So it's not just cut and dried and simple. There could be a lot of things at play here. What else did I want to say? Yeah, I think I wanted to go back to the idea that there's sensory issues. So if your child is maybe covering their ears, or is sensitive to clothing, or wants, tight hugs, or has some sensory thing where with their eyes or their vision, they can have it with their taste. This is the brain not working well. It's not incorporating the information in a correct manner. So we have these what are called sensory end organs, and in our mouth, of course, they're taste buds. In our nose, they're sensors. They're chemical sensors. On our skin, we have tension and vibration and heat and cold. We have those in our mouth too, of course. So maybe your child doesn't like cold, maybe your child doesn't like hot, maybe they like a neutral temperature. So if these sensors are misinterpreted by the brain, or when we process that incoming information, it gets a little scrambled, then that can throw everything off and say, no, I want to eat only this or only this. And so what I see happens I don't see it, but I've had enough experience in the clinic to see that when we pull toxins out of the brain in a gentle detox process, then the neurons can connect better, and so that sensory stuff decreases. I see again and again and again that when you methodically clean out the body, so you do it safely, you do it gently, then what happens is these, inability to make eye contact, which could be a sensory thing, too much visual overload, the covering the ears, especially if you're going to cut hair or, with the snips around the ears, maybe that's too much, or just touching the face or having the shower come down on the head, that really goes away. That kind of sensory stuff diminishes and then goes away when you detoxify the body. So you may or may not know, but my theory is that there's a total load of toxins in the body, and this creates these behaviors. This creates picky eating. Hey, even if your child doesn't have autism and they're a picky eater, like I was, there's probably a certain level of toxicity in the body that's just throwing off either the brain connections or throwing off some of the biochemistry, and it's going to be different for every child. One child might not be able to detox well in this certain process, and another child might not be able to digest well in this certain reactions in the body. So it'll be different for every child. Maybe someone is really constipated, but another person, their liver is overwhelmed, and these are detoxification organs. This is how waste leaves our body. And if the waste isn't leaving the body from the bottom, it's not leaving from the top. It's kind of stuck up here. Picture those bulk grocery bins where you pull the lever and the stuff in the bottom comes out into your bag. The stuff in the top doesn't come out. That comes out after the bottom stuff is gone. So if you want to detoxify, you need to detoxify from the bottom up and open the body systems from the bottom up. Okay, so let's talk about some strategies for picky eating and how to get some good food into your child. Well, every touch, every smell, every taste of, let's just say broccoli for now, is going to be an exposure, and you want to give your child as many exposures as possible. So maybe they hold it and help you in the grocery store. Maybe they take it from the bag at the grocery store and put it into the refrigerator. Maybe they help you take it out and help you chop it if they're able. So every time your child is around it, smelling it, touching it, it's an exposure. You put it on their plate every time, and maybe they have to touch it to take it off and put it on another side plate if they don't want it, and say, no, I don't prefer that right now, if they're speaking. One way I love to get nutrients into kids is, there's a couple ways. One is through popsicles. So I have a recipe on my website for homemade popsicles. Of course, you could put anything you want in it. Fruits, coconut, milk. You can make them with almond milk. You definitely don't have to make them with dairy. Put them in a blender and then freeze them. So there's a recipe on my website, which is autismtransformed.com, under my blog. So you go to the top menu, resources, and go to the blog, and I've got recipe for popsicles, but lots of other recipes there too. So kids tend to, I said we have heat and cold receptors in our mouth. So if they're working on, if the cold receptor is there and that's more alive than some other receptor, kids tend to eat the thing more, even if they wouldn't eat it when it was warm or room temperature. So the cold can be a little bit of a mask for what's in the popsicle, and they may eat it. Smoothies are another great thing. I have so many parents who get their supplements in the smoothie, or, that you could put lettuce in smoothies, which is fiber, and some greens. And if your child is not oxalate sensitive, you could use arugula or spinach. So these are some good sneaky things to get into the smoothie. I use nuts if your child isn't allergic to nuts. And I use lots of different fruits and even some vegetables. And you could put some spirulina in there, turns it a little bit green. You could say, oh, this is our green smoothie. And I have a detox smoothie recipe on my website as well, in the blog. So this is a sneaky way to get things into kids. And let me tell you, if you're putting supplements in there and you have some awful tasting supplements, One, I wouldn't ruin the whole smoothie with the awful tasting supplement. What you need to do is put it like just in a spoon, or I wouldn't ruin the smoothie taste. So I would put that awful tasting supplement maybe in applesauce or something different. And then that doesn't ruin the taste of the smoothie. Because I know some kids, once they have tasted the thing and it tastes awful, they won't go back, right? So another way to gently get fruits and vegetables into your child is through whole food vitamins that use fruits and vegetables. So I know Juice Plus gummies. I've heard that some parents have actually, given these, and it gets the taste sensors in the mouth used to tasting the chemicals from fruits and vegetables. And so then it's getting the palate sort of ready and used to it. So that's another thing you can do. And then I also like the idea of serving meals in courses. We're not, a big fancy wealthy house here, but the idea is that you serve the vegetables first and your kids are hungry when they come to the table, and so they'll at least try and maybe like them. I had a friend who used to sit her girls in front of the TV while she cooked dinner, and she would give them raw veggies, so carrots and broccoli and maybe celery and jicama with some kind of dip, and they would kind of mindlessly eat in front of the TV because they were occupied, but at least their taste buds knew those vegetables and they liked them. Now, I don't like mindless eating, but if that's a sneaky strategy you can use to help your child expand their palate, then so be it. So as I mentioned earlier, I have a download for you guys on 10 strategies for picky eating, and some of them I talked about here. I'll put that in the chat in the reel so you can get that. And that's kind of all I have to talk about today for picky eating and strategies. If you came late and you missed part of this, go back and watch the reel. Yes, I can definitely saving this video as a reel. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer. We're running close to time here, but if you can type anything in and you'd like to ask what my experience is with working with kids with picky eating, or thankfully my son, who's almost 26, was not a picky eater. He loved almost everything I gave him, but I do want to say he did not love, when he was very little, he did not like potatoes, tomatoes, eggplant, and he did like peppers somewhat, but those are for vegetables in the nightshade family. So I want to also defer to the wisdom of the body. So there was probably something in those nightshades, they have different kinds of chemical composition, that his body didn't really want, and he would say, no, I don't want that. Even French fries, he never ate French fries, he never ate potato chips. He just would not eat potatoes or tomatoes. And now that he's older, our taste buds change as we grow. I never used to like coffee, and now I like coffee. So, and it's been that way with many other things. So, also, like if there is a category of food that our kids just don't want to eat, but they're eating a lot of other things, I would trust that wisdom of the body. In a child with autism, those neurons aren't always connecting properly, and there's some inflammation in the brain, and there's some toxicity in the brain, and it just might be having a different dialogue. And so there might be the wisdom of the body as well, but they might be rejecting a lot of other foods. How to detoxify kids' bodies. Well, that's really a process. You can't just give like a chelation agent. Like I know there's the Andy Cutler protocol they use alpha lipoic acid. There's IV chelation where you can use DMPS, DMSA. These are to pull out heavy metals, usually mercury, cadmium, lead, and EDTA is for lead. So there is that way that is well known to pull out toxins and to detoxify. But our kiddos who have a really high load of toxins in their body, you can't just go in and try and pull something out. You can do IV chelation, that can work. It's also quite disruptive to put a needle in your child's arm, right? It's not fun. It's not a happy place for them. So I don't recommend chelation. I don't recommend IV chelation. So the proper way to detoxify is first, your child has to be pooping every day, because this is our macro system to get rid of waste. Our cells produce waste every single day, every moment, where we have all these biochemicals, something like 6 million biochemical reactions happening every second in our body that produces the next thing, the next thing, the next thing on down the line. It's kind of like a factory line, and eventually you have waste. Some of that waste gets recycled in the cells, but some of that gets put out into the circulation, into the lymphatic system, and gets carried through the body, gets carried through the blood and lymph to the liver. The liver detoxifies big molecules. So if we have pesticides, herbicides, glyphosate, other chemicals in our body, metals, that's all going to go through the liver. And what happens after the liver? It all gets dumped into the intestines. So your child has to be pooping every day. So that's the first place we start, is with pooping and pulling toxins out from the colon with binders. So binders are, compound. Picture them like sponges in the gut, and they're going to hook onto toxins and pull them all the way out. So we use very specific binders for specific things. And then you have to take care of the liver, and then you have to take care of the lymph. And until these channels of elimination are open in the body, I recommend not detoxifying, because where are those toxins going to go? If you try and detoxify the brain and the lymphatics in your neck are blocked or occluded or like really skinny, like a coffee stirrer straw versus the vessel being a coffee stirrer straw versus like a smoothie straw, all that's going to happen is those toxins are going to find a different location on the brain, and you might see increased hyperactivity, increased stimming, what's called detox or Herxheimer reactions, because you're kind of creating this explosion in the body, but you're not mopping it up. There's no place for them to go. So this is why we need to open the elimination systems first. This is called drainage. So we need to open the drainage first, and then we detoxify. So there's different kinds of binders we use to detoxify. There's different kind of herbs we use to detoxify. How to solve constipation issues. That's a good one. So I actually have a constipation, a bowel reset, 7-day bowel reset for constipated kids. And I can put that also in the notes. So there's lots of ways, just drinking more water is a huge step. Our kids have to be drinking enough water. Our kids have to be moving. There's certain supplements that help with pooping, and there's herbs, and there's magnesium, and there's other different kinds of things that help. And sometimes just a manual massage. So I'll put that resource into the comments so you can get that if you want to. But constipation is huge in our kids, and even if your child alternates constipation, diarrhea, constipation, I just want to define it. If your child is not pooping every day, that's constipation. Your child should be pooping 1 to 4 times a day. It should look like a smooth log or a snake coming out. If it's lumpy or little rabbit pellets, or if you see like some liquid leaking out, it's usually a sign that it's too dry in there, right? So things are not moving easily. And so probably increasing water in that situation would be a great remedy. It may not be the only thing you do, but that's going to help slide things through. It could be increasing your child's good fats, like avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil, making sure they're getting good fats, and that could grease the way, so to speak. Castor oil could be a really great thing to use, either internally or externally. So we want to make sure things are lubricated, things are moving. It could be the nervous system is set in fight or flight most of the time. And, if we're in fight or flight, we're not really relaxed enough to poop. Could be anxiety going on, and toxins contribute to that. So there's a lot of reasons for constipation. I hadn't planned on talking about that in this reel, but there's definitely help for that. So any other questions? Let me just double check. Help my child Jamal. He has autism and his condition worsened during the war. I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, if you don't have resources to things that are going to help him, plus the trauma of, being in a war zone, that's really hard on the body. So, Mama, one of the things you can do is to, regulate yourself. Our kids often co-regulate with us. So if you're stressed, if we as parents are stressed, our kids are going to be way more stressed. So unfortunately, you may not be able to do anything about your situation, but you can do something about how you respond to your situation. So I wish you the best in that. And thank you so much for joining. And I will have all these resources I talked about in the chat and a way for you to get them. Picky eating strategies, help for constipation. I have a couple recipes I talked about, the smoothie, detox smoothie, the cold summer popsicles, and then there's other recipes you can check out there. How to cure candida? Well, that's a great question, and it's a little bit more complicated, and it's candida is there and parasites are there to help with the toxicity in the body. So you need to slowly bring down the toxicity, which means you need to have the drainage open first, which means your child needs to be pooping, right? So one thing before the other, you do it in a specific order so it is safe on the body. And if you just go after the candida and you don't do anything else, you're going to create probably a lot of toxicity in the body and make things worse. So it has to be done in a certain order. We do that in our Transforming Autism program. We have a 12-month program, but we also have a little JUMPSTART program. So I'll put that resource in the comments as well. So how to start that process. It's a process. It takes time. It's not just a pill. It's not just one thing. Our kids are overloaded and toxic, and we need to slowly, methodically, in the right order, clean out the body. And again, it's way too much to go into here, but it is a process that takes time, and it's completely doable, and you can see the behavior shift. You can see eye contact, you see more interaction. This is what I see with the kids I work with. You see more speech coming on. You see the sensory issues diminish and go away, as I talked about. Now, does autism go away completely? Maybe, maybe not, but you see your child kind of become more aware, more alert, more interactive, because they're not dealing with so much on the inside of their body, so they can interact more with outside their body. So thank you all for being here. I appreciate you. If you missed part of this, please go back and watch the reel. I've got some really great resources in there, and I do this every week, Thursday, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, and I'll see you next time.